Hi everyone. I just want to reiterate again that I'm really glad that you're in this class, and if there's anything I can do to help, please contact me in one of the ways I've given you throughout the course. Alright, so we're on to Chapter 1, to an Introduction to Law, and I've given you some module objectives that line up with the book. And this PowerPoint is going to make the best sense to you after you've read the chapter and you're kind of going through it along with the book to kind of see where things are. And I've also put these module objectives in green throughout the PowerPoint presentation, so you know what's really important, what you want to review for your midterm and your final. So we are in this PowerPoint presentation going to define the law, talk about different sources of law. One of the really big things that's very important is the differentiation between criminal and civil law. And I am a stickler for making sure that you are using the proper terms for each. So please pay attention to that. Also, we're going to talk about how the courts are organized. That can be very confusing when you're first starting out. So I'll try to break that down and make it simple. And finally, we'll talk about the different branches of government. All right, we're on the second slide now, and you can see that I've given you a definition of law from a dictionary, and you can read that yourself. The goal of this is not for me to be rereading PowerPoints to you, but just kind of explain some things in the PowerPoints and go over things that need more emphasis so you know what to review for your midterm and final and that sort of thing. From your book, law is very difficult to define. And one of the biggest points I need to make with you guys is that it's completely separate from whatever your own moral code is. You know, sometimes the law decides something that you completely don't agree with. So we need to get the concept that law is separate. Sometimes it does reflect what we believe in, but a lot of times there are differences. And even if we don't agree with it, that's what the rules are, and we have to live by them. Okay, when I have this kind of slide, as it says at the top, it's just like a mini table of contents. And this is coming back from your textbook. And what we're about to talk about are the three sources of law, which are statutory, case law, and administrative. So I did read that slide to you, but I just kind of wanted to explain how this slide works. It tells you what you're about to learn. Okay, so the first source of law we have is a statute. And with the statute, it's a yes or no answer. Did you commit or not commit what that statute was talking about? So a lot of times people think, oh, you know, if I just explain it, I won't get in trouble. Well, there's certain things that if you violate, it's just a yes or no. Did you violate it? Did you run the red light? Yes. Okay. Then usually it's not going to matter why you ran the red light. You're guilty or liable for running that red light. With another great example of this would be the vehicle code. The vehicle code is got a section that talks about rear-ending another. And it says that whoever rear-ends somebody else is 100% at fault. And it usually does not matter why somebody rear-ended another. Okay, this is just another example of a statute, and you can read it and interpret it yourself. Okay, so these are all the California state statutes. And California has a huge population. So we have a tremendous number. We have 29 statutes, and the books can take up an entire wall in the library if you actually go and see the statutes with the cases combined. And we have a lot more statutes than most other states because we are one of the most populated states. So when you have a lot of people, you've got to regulate everything. We have water. Water is a huge issue in the state of California because most of us in Southern California live in a desert. And we regulate things like fishing. Everything you could possibly think of is available to research in California, almost considered part of a statute. Now, usually what interprets the statutes, if there is any questions about the statutes, is cases. And yes, I said there's like a statute on almost every type of law, but you will find sometimes that nobody's made a decision about that area yet, and then case law can come in and kind of help make some laws until the legislature gets around to codifying it in a statute. Okay, so I'll probably make this PowerPoint available to you just as a PowerPoint, and then also with the Screencast-O-Matic audio. So if you do want to just click on the link here to do this little assignment, then you can just use the regular PowerPoint to do so. I'll also go ahead and try to make this link available under Canvas because you cannot click on it in the Screencast-O-Matic audio version. But I really do want you to go and see the website for all the different statutes in California. And this is a free website. It's just going to have the statute without any cases, but it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with this as a citizen and as a future paralegal if you're going to do that. Okay, so case law. So statutes are, backing up, the statutes are basically made by politicians, legislatures, and case law is made by judges. And a lot of times case law reflects something that hasn't been decided by a statute yet, or it helps interpret the statutes. Politicians don't always write the best statutes, and so the courts have to come in and kind of explain it. And this is a very famous case called New York Times versus Sullivan, and it's about defamation. If you're interested, I suggest you Google it and read it. It's just a fascinating case. All right, just to confuse everything even more, of course the law has administrative rules and regulations. And these are rules just particular to a certain agency. They're usually more relaxed than a court of law. For example, in California, excuse me. For instance, in California, we have the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board. It's a hearing board. People don't have to be attorneys to represent others there. They can be hearing representatives, which could be an experienced paralegal. And the rules of evidence are relaxed in a Workers' Compensation Appeals Board. And only the rules for a Workers' Compensation Appeals Board apply to that entity. Okay, you just have another mini table of contents telling you what we're going to discuss, and it aligns with your book. All right, I let you know from the get-go that I was going to make a point of making sure on your midterm and your final that you talked about civil law terms with civil law and criminal law terms with criminal law. And you'll really see what I'm talking about on the next slide. I've given you an example of the caption of a lawsuit. This is the very top of a lawsuit, and it's chock full of information. It's got the attorney's information, who he's representing, where the court is, who the parties are, and what is this piece of paper about. Okay, so here's the slide that I was really telling you that you need to pay attention to for exam purposes. Civil and criminal are completely different. For example, the plaintiff is different. It's going to be the people, the government, and criminal, and it's going to be a person or a business entity in civil. The defendant, again in civil, will be a person or business entity, but the defendant in criminal will be the person accused of doing the crime. Another really big area where they're different is the standard of evidence. You've got preponderance of the evidence, which is more likely than not, versus beyond a reasonable doubt. And we'll get into that a little bit more later about what that means. Remedy is also different. You can't get jail time for civil violations typically. And the verdict is very different. And this is the area where most students mess it up. They talk about liable with criminal. It's only liable with civil, and it's only guilty or not guilty with criminal. Okay, so you may have noticed I skipped a couple of slides because I didn't have a lot I wanted to add to them. Also, these screencast-o-matics with the audio only last for 15 minutes, so I want to get to stuff that I really want to emphasize for you. Okay, so we already talked about preponderance of the evidence. More likely than not, you can see my picture where I show you the scale, 51% versus 49%. And beyond a reasonable doubt means you don't really have a ton of hesitation in terms of reaching a specific conclusion. Okay, again, I've skipped some slides for you. Pretty much how it usually works is that the executive branch, which is the president, the legislative branch, which is Congress and the Senate, and the judiciary branch are somewhat considered equal, and they're meant to be mainly the same size so that one can check the other. For example, a lot of people are really getting upset about the election and worried about who's going to be president, and hopefully whomever comes into office, the legislative branch and the judiciary branch will be able to kind of check and balance that president. Okay, again, I skipped some slides, just a fun little side note. About 6 years ago, I got to go be admitted to the United States Supreme Court. It was a huge honor, and one of the best moments of my professional life was getting to have breakfast with Justice Sotomayor. Just a remarkable lady and a remarkable role model, and we weren't really allowed to talk about any cases or anything like that with her. We mainly sat down and talked to her about, I personally talked to her about her mom at the time was in a nursing facility and kind of the stress and pressure that put on her. She's just a very real person and just so approachable. Okay, again, we've skipped more slides. Read those ones on your own. That does not mean just pass over them. One of the things I also like to test on is I like to see that you know how we can get to the United States Supreme Court. One of the ways is through like district court, which is a trial court, then appellate court. We have the Ninth Circuit of Appeals, and then we have the Supreme Court. Another way is we can go through state court. So we can go through the state trial court, and we can go to the state appellate court, and then the state Supreme Court, and finally the state Supreme Court can go all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. All right, I got done with less than 15 minutes, so we're good. Please let me know if these audio additions to the PowerPoints are helpful or not, and if they are, then please use them, and if they're not, I'll try to provide the regular PowerPoint as well. All right, please contact me if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Take care for now. Bye.